Washington Alliance for Drug-Endangered Children. Our mission is to pursue safety for our most vulnerable citizens, our children. And I had an opportunity earlier today with the prevention panel to provide you some information. I have a binder here to give you. You had asked for input. The Washington Alliance for Drug-Endangered Children has compiled resources, including resources from Colorado, regarding marijuana and its legalization. And so we'd like to submit this to you for assistance in your implementation of the regulations for legalizing marijuana. Among the resources is a list that's been compiled by the National Families in Action of 12 provisions that we think are important to protect children in regard to marijuana being legalized. And some of these are items that, through the PowerPoint, your director has said that you will be regulating. I'd like just to point out a few of them. You've noted that there will be licensed growers, distributors, retail stores, and so forth. We would like to note that marijuana should be sold only in these retail establishments, and we understand that will be the case. We're concerned with credentials, education, training, and so forth, similar to the licensing that is in place for pharmaceutical sales, pharmaceutical manufacturing, pharmaceutical distribution. You've noted that there would be no advertising, and we applaud that. We also would like to see that there would be a penalty fee on the marijuana industry for every underage user. So that would be on the industry, not on the underage user, who I understand is already covered by state law. An automatic repeal of marijuana legalization if underage marijuana exceeds certain levels. That there be no product placement, sponsorship, point of purchase marketing, or depictions in entertainment venues. I understand that there will be strict advertising and display at the particular location where there is a sale. One of the most important things is an industry-financed fund from marijuana profits to pay for the damage legal marijuana will do, so that taxpayers will not have to pick up that particular tab. There will be, as we know, by law, state agency to tax and regulate the marijuana industry, including marijuana purity and potency. We also would like to bring to your attention that there should be child-proof packaging and consumer protection labeling in order to protect children. Yes, I will give you this particular binder, and if there's other information that we come across, we will submit it to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Angel Coble with Panar, which is People Are Not a Renewable Resource. We've been providing medical cards for people all over the country, not just Washington. I myself am an edible maker, and I have a few things that concern me about I-502. One of the ones is I don't mind paying a 25% tax on making my candies. I would do that at any group, whether there was cannabis in them or they weren't. My problem comes to, I have to give my candies to a retailer. We ran into this problem in California, Oregon, and Colorado, where retailers drive the cost of the product down. So where I could make an average of $3 a candy and I'm going to make $1.50 out of it, they would only offer me 50 cents a candy. My question is, what is going to happen when this opens up and the retailer's like, oh, I can get that cheaper elsewhere. I've already spent $1,250 to get a license. Where am I going to be at? What is this going to do to my bottom line? And that's where I'm a little worried about this. I'm also a little worried about the medical patient, because as a medical patient myself and being an MS patient for the past 20 years, I know how much I need and how much I use. And is this going to turn around and someone's going to say, well, you can't get a card anymore because now everybody's legal in Washington, so you better go pay $25 a gram to get your medication. Those are the things that kind of concern me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Mberg. I represent the Okanagan Cannabis Association. I'm a wildlife biologist. First, I would like to invite you to come to Okanagan. Right now, I believe Okanagan produces 50% of the outdoor crop, is I think a fair estimate. I also think you guys have a huge task in front of you, and one of the big problems that you're going to run into is the 45% of the people that didn't vote for it, and the politicians who can put roadblocks in the way. And that's part of the reason we'd like you to come to Okanagan and perhaps other of the towns on the east side of the state. I noticed there were only 2 out of the 9, I think, on the east side of the state. It would help us a lot if you came to influence the local leaders that there's to not stand in the way and to assist you guys. Our platform is mostly concerned about the environmental impact of cannabis production. As you know, under it being illegal, we were forced indoors. I'm worried, we are the leaders in the world on this. I'm worried that we are codifying an unsustainable practice into law, and that worries me. I refer you to Evan Mills, PhD out of Mendocino. He published in the Journal of Energy Policy an article titled Up in Smoke, the Carbon Footprint of Indoor Cannabis, where he estimates that a single kilogram of cannabis produces 3,000 kilograms of carbon emissions. He also estimates that 1% of the entire national grid is devoted towards cannabis production, that 3% of California is devoted towards cannabis production. I cannot see how we can use our finite resources to produce a crop that can be produced using the best solar panel in the world, photosynthesis. You guys do need to check out his work. He estimates that the amount of power used right now currently is enough to power 2 million homes. My own calculations, just for the lighting alone, in Washington to produce the 186,000 pounds would use enough power to power 25,000 homes, and it would produce 127 million pounds of carbon a year and use 46,000 high-intensity discharge bulbs full of mercury and lead. I feel like that the board has tipped their hat a little bit. You said that you came up with the schedule because you went from the December 1st deadline and you backed up. To me, it's a tacit admission that you plan on the production coming from indoor because nobody can grow a crop starting in August. So I encourage you to reflect on your timeline and perhaps change it and start in June or start in April and have the licenses out then so we can have a crop that is there's one more issue I'd like to bring up, and I think that a little bit of forethought here could solve a lot of problems down the road, and that being that at some point we're going to legalize hemp production. And you cannot grow Sinsemilla and hemp together. And so you need to be thinking about regions. To me, this is a crop very similar to grapes and wine. It's regional, it builds culture regionally, and if we need to create zones where we're gonna have Sinsemilla production, and we're gonna create zones where we have hemp production, because you cannot grow Sinsemilla with hemp production at the same time. Thank you very much.
Before I start, I'd like to say that I spent a lot of time in Seattle as an activist under the Seattle LCB hearing, and I know Spokane got hammered by the feds a few years ago, and Seattle enjoys a revelatory celebration. The room needs to lighten up, you guys. This is our chance. This is a great cause to celebrate.
Would you give us your name?
Yes. My name is Kevin Oliver. I'm the Executive Director of the State Affiliate for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Thank you. NORML's mission is to move public opinion sufficiently to achieve the repeal of marijuana prohibition so that responsible users of cannabis by adults is no longer subject to penalty. That mission was achieved when Initiative 502 became a reality by law. on behalf of responsible adult consumers of marijuana everywhere, from grassroots activists to elected officials, from recreational users to patients, from social sculptors to industry experts, and from producers to retailers, Norma would like to welcome you, the Washington Liquor and Cannabis Control Board, to Spokane. Embracing this unique opportunity to be the social sculptors and allowing public participation and comment in these forums across the state. Spokane is important because we are an average American city. As such, if citizens approve of something in Spokane, chances are good that citizens will approve it anywhere in the United States. And Spokane approves of marijuana legalization, about 53% countywide. As you travel across the state, you're getting a glimpse behind the curtain of prohibition and seeing for yourself firsthand rugged individuals, those who've been providing some of the best marijuana in the world locally from their basement gardens, as well as those who are interested in becoming brand name processors or those interested in the retail component of I-502. As you consider rulemaking, consider that this is not a new industry. This is a market. There is a market equilibrium in place that is currently providing the best quality marijuana for the lowest prices that this state has ever seen. Far better than most of the country, with virtually no spillage or diversion of Washington homegrown marijuana across state lines. In fact, in the fall, our prices go down because of the spillage coming in from Northern California and Oregon. The marijuana industry in Washington currently exists as a boutique cottage industry that does not meet invasive or intensive tenets of security and other types of code enforcement for compliance. Anyone capable of demonstrating the ability to produce high-quality marijuana, clean marijuana, should then be allowed to enter the market as a producer. Individual producers are burglarized far less in convenience stores. The fact is, even producers of maple syrup in Canada can face the risk of loss through theft. And fires at grow-ups are virtually non-existent compared to chimney fires. While setting a precedent for the rest of the country, and by allowing many local boutique producers, you will ensure the best selection and quality for the adult consumer at the retail level. Individuals and corporations who have approached me, even since our last meeting, with an interest in the processing component of I-502, want to be able to buy marijuana from as many producers as possible, brand it with their logo, and sell it to retailers according to good quality. And good marijuana sells itself. I imagine high-quality Washington weed, like Washington wine, not grown anywhere else in the world, just as I can imagine high-quality Hawaiian weed, grown in the sun in volcanic soil with consistent temperature and humidity and some of the cleanest air in the world, but I digress. My point is that quality and selection are maintained by allowing as many local micro-growers as possible, thereby allowing consumer demand to be met as exclusively as possible. Citizens who have previously operated under the oppressive shadow of prohibition should be given a new opportunity to rise into the light of the new legal market where they can hold their heads high as proud, productive members of the community. The primary sponsors of I-502, the authors of this initiative, those who funded and endorsed it, see this as a step forward for social justice by dealing a severe blow to the stupid laws of prohibition. We see 502 as a civil rights victory for responsible adult consumers of marijuana everywhere, and as the world watches prohibitions and regulations for marijuana will vary from state to state, city to city, and a patchwork of regulations will emerge, as with alcohol. And as you embark on the rulemaking process, again, thank you for embracing this unique opportunity to help sculpt social policy in a way that safeguards the intention by protecting the civil liberties and rights of citizens in this state to produce some of the best marijuana in the world for consumption by responsible adults.
My name is Scott Hagberg. I'm here to establish a dialogue. I'm a business owner in downtown Spokane. I'm a pastor. I love God very much. And I love all of you very much. You guys are awesome for coming out. There's many of my friends who stayed home. They're going to slink behind the curtains and just watch and see what happens. And many of you didn't sign up to speak tonight. We need to change. Just like he said, we need to lighten up a little bit and we need to change. Where there's a change of rest and you can stand up and say who you are. I really appreciate your comments, ma'am. And I really appreciate your comments, sir, who just spoke. And there has to be a middle common ground and there needs to be a responsible user. This is the face of a responsible user. If we're going to open up a dialogue with the federal government, we need to become responsible users. I suggest a 4-tier program instead of a 3rd, where there's a purchaser license. A purchaser license. In order to get a purchaser license, I thank so much the green card people and those of you who are in the medical community. You forged this groundwork for us because you stepped forward, you put your fortunes, your fame, and whoever you were on the line. You went to court, you fought, you put in the time, and there's many of you still doing that. And we owe this, the state of Washington owes this to the green card users, the responsible green card users of the state of Washington. We need to acknowledge that. This is the first time I've publicly said that I desire to be a user of marijuana publicly, ever. I've lost at West Point. I got kicked out of West Point, United States Military Academy for use at West Point. I lost 2 marriages. I did not see my kids for a year because of my marijuana usage. I am not a criminal. But because of folks that have concerns, there is safety and responsibility issues. I'm saying a 4-tier program where I would state my name, my driver's license, who I am, and I would take a test on the rules, the responsibilities of safe handling and usage of marijuana. I would take a test to be a purchaser, a holder of marijuana. Because I need to be educated, laws are changing, this would be a way for the state to communicate to the purchaser, the end user, of what's going on. I'd also, for law enforcement purposes, say I'm a certified holder of someone who's responsibly using marijuana. The other thing is, as I get my friends coming to me wanting to buy these buds that I'm getting from the dispensary, I'd say, go get your own card. Go get your own card. I'm sitting tired of waiting in parking lots, waiting on time. I'll pay a fee annually so I can get re-educated and I can be a 4-tier user system. Again, that's income coming in through fees. That's responsible users. There's tracking of what's being purchased and used because I have an ID number with the state to go and purchase. That is the privilege of being a Washington State resident. I would have a user card which I could go use and purchase responsible marijuana. I'll put a leaf on my vehicle that I'm a responsible user. You can back off from me or whatever. The law enforcement come right up and know I'm a responsible marijuana user. I know how many hours they're going to use. I know how much I can use to drive. I'm not afraid anymore. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to speak. Because if you're afraid, that means you're doing something wrong. And if you're doing something wrong, cut it out.
How y'all doing again? I'm Bill Thomas, longtime hemp activist and cannabis activist, and I also own a small company called Hemp America. I want to thank you guys, obviously, for coming all the way out here. I attended that first meeting, that sardine can we were stuck in. That was a heck of a meeting, wasn't it? I also like to thank every single person in Washington State that's been out here pushing to bring this to a new market and create a new regulatory system for all of us here in Washington State. I'd like to say, I know you guys aren't looking at regulating hemp, but you are the only people holding public forums, so you are going to hear about it. All right. We need to recognize, there's this little line here, the law states, and it was amended, marijuana means all parts of the plant cannabis, whether growing or not. And then it was amended to add in with a THC concentration greater than 0.3% on dry weight basis. This basically opens up the door. That's the world standard for hemp production. If you guys aren't really regulating hemp and everything, this law is stated, cannot farmers just now start growing hemp? I mean, is that how it is? Or does Washington State Liquor Control Board need to set standards for licensing hemp and defining the difference between hemp fields and marijuana fields? As we know, the DEA does not recognize the difference between marijuana and hemp. The CSA has since 1937 specifically provided that hemp fiber, sterilized seed, and seed oil are exempt from the definition of marijuana, and that's the reason we can trade it across state lines and everything. And we even have a $23 million import business around hemp. Import, in other words, we import it in instead of exporting it out. Basically, I'm just here, and I've been over in Olympia. I just want you guys to recognize hemp. I want you to recognize there's a big difference. I want you to recognize that you guys need to set some standards for testing, regulating, and licensing hemp production. And I'd like you guys to consider this when you hire your RFP consultants. And I want to see hemp be a reality for our farmers, for our communities, for our businesses, and for the citizens of Washington State. And that's what I'm after. My name is Bill Thomas. I'd love to talk to you guys more about this.
Hi, I'm Christine Clark. I'm 71. I'm a grandchild and I'm a grandmother. I read the I-502 initiative, and being a retired clinical laboratory technologist, I liked the definition of what intoxication was for use of marijuana, especially operating vehicles. This is also going to carry over to the employment field and to other traffic control issues, so that we have safe operation equipment by employees and employers, and safe operation of other vehicles such as airplanes, locomotives. So this initiative passage has a great impact. My grandparents were German immigrants. They loved their cold beer. They were disappointed when Prohibition hit because they had to make their own beer. They were lousy beer makers. They were very happy when Prohibition ended because then they could just go down to the corner store and buy a case of beer. And when I was a kid born in the 40s, my parents would have card parties with cases of beer, and they would play canasta, and the kids would eat popcorn and watch 8mm movie films projected on a bed sheet in the living room. In 2013, my grandson knows that his grandmother goes grocery shopping and brings home a 6-pack of beer in the car, and nobody stops her because she has a 6-pack of beer. His parents also buy a 6-pack of beer. Nobody stops them. I think we're moving into a new field of regulation. The hearings that we're having are just wonderfully welcomed. I think when Prohibition ended, there wasn't this type of public involvement. So I thank you so much. And I'm hoping that the process of regulating another recreational drug goes very smoothly and safely. Thank you.
Robert Clear, Leonard Browning, David Gomez, I believe, Phil Smith, Kate Peaker, Dale Breeze, and Bob Engman.
Greetings. My name's Leonard Browning. I represent CAC, Citizens Against Corruption. What we primarily do is help people defend themselves in court, people who cannot defend themselves, or attorneys that won't do the job. We help them with the research and the paper preparation. We prevailed in over 70 cases without attorneys. We have had cases that we prevailed in the Idaho Supreme Court, the Idaho Appellate Court. We've been in the federal court 3 times in the state of Washington and twice in the state of Idaho. So my point is, I believe that the law enforcement had better be tuned up a little, because these marijuana laws are going to be arbitrarily enforced by the local police. The state police has something different. And I believe that the sheriff of every county should do his duty, stand up to the feds and tell them to stay out of the state of Washington. This is wrong. The state of Washington, the sheriff is the only one who has the legal authority to enforce the laws within his county due to the fact he's elected by the people. And the federal government had better stay away. They don't have the authority. They assume the authority, and the sheriff, prosecutors, judges, they allow that authority to exist. That's the first thing. And the next thing I'd like to address is that children and marijuana. This is totally ridiculous. I know of people who are not responsible parents, and I know of children that will experiment and do whatever they can get by with, just as children have since the beginning of time. So if you're going to process somebody for selling marijuana, and a child ends up with it, I think you better process the parents. They're the ones that's not doing the job. And everyone should have a right to raise marijuana. And there was a gentleman here who said that he believes in God. Well, read Leviticus. Every herb of the field shall be for your I come from an era back in the 60s, early 60s, I might add. And I'm an over-the-hill hippie. And we had a saying back then. It said, don't panic if it's organic. And I believe that applies today. This is marijuana, if properly taken, is a good medicine for some people. Not all people, but some people. Some people are allergic to it, just as like some people are allergic to milk or gluten. So don't use it. And if they're going to have tests to see how much THC a person has in their system, then I suggest that every one of the judges, lawyers, and police officers also have that test.